Hello, and welcome to today's podcast. Today, the topic will be producers and consumers polluting our environment. It is important to first understand the concept of pollution, which is the introduction of pollutants or damaging materials into the environment. This damaging material can be natural, as volcanic ash, or created by human activity, such as trash. This problematic is harmful for the quality of land, air, and water. In some of the biggest cities in Mexico, air pollution is becoming a serious concern. Now that our topic has been fully explained, I'll introduce the three different types of demographics. Our first one being consumers. Researchers say household consumers are by far the largest range on the planet, and that they are responsible for more than 60% of the greenhouse gas emissions and 80% of global water waste. So, do they realize that their habits are polluting their environment? So, introducing our first interviewee, here is Beatriz. Welcome, Beatriz, to today's podcast. So, the first question is, do you think culture plays a role in the issue of pollution?
Yes, culture are definitely part of the pollution problem.
What are some habits in your culture you know pollutes the environment?
All food plastic wrap. Another one is use drinking water instead of treated water for irrigation. And the last one is still recyclable and non-recyclable garbage.
And do you think consumers would be willing to change their habits in order to avoid future pollution?
Yes, they will be willing.
So why do you think that even when consumers are aware that some of the products they consume pollutes, they still buy them?
For the price, or due to lack of availability, or by culture or unconscious bias.
What do you think are the obstacles that prevent people from changing their habits?
The business marketing, some trends in the community, or the cost of the ecological things against to the non-economical things.
And what do you think about the idea that humans are living on the planet as if there was another one to go to?
Because normally we see the future far away, we live our lives without future life plan. And anyway, it's part of our culture, low level of education that we have here.
Thank you very much, Beatriz, for taking your time to come talk in our podcast. Very interesting answers that Beatriz just shared with us. The next demographic is producers. Factories are the biggest example of producers polluting their environment. Producers are feeding the people habits. They are the first ones that have to change their products in order for everyone else to stop polluting. So now, introducing our second interviewee, here is Catalina Ruiz Velasco. Welcome, Catalina. So let's start with the questions. First of all, do you think culture plays a role in the issue of pollution?
I think definitely yes. I think different human cultures have had varying effects on their environment. Some cultures, mainly agricultural societies, have little environmental impact, while urban, developed industrial societies have the greatest effect on the environment. And they use as well a huge amount of resources to sustain these activities, contributing to the deforestation and to the depletion of natural resources. On the other hand, these developed and more educated societies or nations, they do have a higher amount of awareness of the negative impacts to the environment, and so they assign higher amount of resources and technology to protect it, as well as they also have higher amount of regulations.
What are some habits in your culture you know pollutes your environment?
Well, there are many habits that we have in our daily lives that do contribute a lot to the pollution. and to the CO2 emissions and global warming and greenhouse effects and so forth. At home, only the fact that we live on the TV for hours, or that we live on the lights, or we do not separate the garbage, we do not recycle things, the usage of plastic bags and plastic bottles, and all of the electrical devices we use as well contribute to this. We transport ourselves in cars instead of using public transport. These are the daily activities that actually contribute to pollution at home.
Very well. Do you think that producers would be willing to change their habits in order to avoid future pollution?
Yes, I actually think that today producers, they do have the will to change production habits, and they are much more aware of the need to protect our environment and to have much more environmentally friendlier companies. No? And this is not only domestically speaking in regards to Mexico, but I think there is a total global awareness of this. We can use real examples like the Bimbo example, the company Bimbo, which has committed to stop using plastic packaging for their products, and they are willing to achieve this for 2020, for example. There are thousands of specific examples. We can talk about Costco and the fact that they are not bringing Christmas trees anymore because this contributes to negative impacts to the environment. And we can see much more advanced companies, international companies like Tesla, which produce electronic cars that do not pollute, but they are willing to change and to have a completely sustainable supply chain in order to be much more environmentally friendly. There are companies that are actually as well changing their sources of energy to alternative sources of energy instead of using fossil fuel. It is important to say that Mexico can become as well a very high potential supplier of aeolic energy and geothermic energy in the near future. So this will change a lot of things within national companies and the awareness of using other types of energy which are less pollutant than fossil fuels.
Why do you think that even when producers are aware of some of their products they produce pollutes, they still do them?
Even though some producers are aware that some products pollute, they still use them, and basically they still use them because it is a matter of costs. It is a matter of cost efficiency. It is a matter of productivity. At the beginning, the cost of being a sustainable company are very high, and not many companies can afford it, but it has been proved that on the longer run, it brings much more higher benefits, not only to stakeholders, but also to the community and to the whole environment, in order not to compromise the future resources for the young generations.
So what do you think are the obstacles that prevent producers from changing their habits?
Basically, the main obstacle is costs. No, and it is also related with a lack of technology and lack of resources. We can also think about a limited access to financing, lack of knowledge, lack of awareness, and lack of the right laws and regulations in order to protect the environment. But if you ask me what's the main obstacle, it is basically a matter of cost.
What do you think about the idea that humans are living on the planet as if there was another one to go to?
It is definitely one of the biggest challenges of humanity. We cannot keep living this way. I think we all need to work together to reduce our main environmental footprint, to stop deforestation, to stop the depletion of resources, the greenhouse effects and CO2 emissions and so forth. But in order to achieve that, we need to start making changes together. Not only people, but also companies and governments. We all need to work together. Nationally speaking, internationally speaking, we need international organizations that promote the protection of the environment. We need institutions to achieve this. And we need all of the leaders around the world to realize the importance of this. I think that to start with, we can start making changes at home. Only by turning off the lights, by recycling things, by separating garbage, by stop eating meat, and so on, we can make big changes. And then creating or having companies that care about the environment and creating sustainable companies. And governments that do have higher amount of regulations and economical support in order to be able to achieve real changes, nationally and worldwide speaking.
Thank you, Catalina, for coming to today's podcast. The last demographic is younger generations. These are the demographics suffering this issue. This generation will be the one who is going to have to find a solution for this problematic and change the habits that are causing this issue. So now, introducing our third and last demographic, Nicole. Hello, Nicole, and welcome to today's podcast. So, the first question is, do you think culture plays a role in the issue of pollution?
Yes, I do think that culture plays a role in the issue of pollution because the traditions and how we are taught since child affects if we play a positive or negative role in society according to pollution. Me, as part of a younger generation.
So, as a part of a younger generation that has received much more information on the subject in comparison to prior generations, do you think you are more sensible to the topic?
Of course, we're more sensible to the topic because before this issue wasn't talked at all, and now we can be more conscious about the effects and we can think more about our actions.
As a future producer or consumer, do you think it's good to be possible for you to have a sustainable lifestyle?
Yes, we can have a more sustainable lifestyle because technology increases, new innovations of how to be sustainable or adapt now is more popular, and as the time passes by there will be more specific ways to treat better the environment and to make a positive change.
And if continued like this, how do you see the future for our generation?
If we continue as we're right now, this will be total disaster because right now we're conscious about our acts more than before, but the planet has to make a completely twist about our minds and our mindset about the situation because we can always improve.
If habits changed, how do you see the future for this generation?
As I told, habits can change if we change them completely, because we cannot change a sustainable world and planet if we are not doing it at all and complete, because sometimes are some parts missing and this affects in a slow way, but of course affecting a part of the planet.
What do you think about the idea that humans are living on the planet as if there was another one to go to?
I believe that some of human minds are just like, okay, the planet it's gonna end, let's leave, let's do whatever we want, not be conscious about our acts. But this is really bad because we don't really know with certainty what's gonna be next. So we have to shift our minds and to make a change for the better of the planet.
Thank you, Nicole, for coming to this show. So, to answer our question, do consumers and producers in Mexican culture realize that their habits are polluting their environment? The answer is yes. And even though most of them want to change this, they can't because of one main issue: cost. So, thank you for listening today to this podcast. I hope you enjoyed it. We'll see you again tomorrow.